And we're off and running day number 27, week number 6 of this fall meet here at Gulfstream Park West. So good to have you with us. Ron Nicoletti and Jason Blewett joining you live from our Gulfstream studios, and a little bit of an Indian summer here on this Wednesday, November the 8th.
Yeah, but just that humidity's just a little bit down. So beautiful day again here in South Florida, and got to carry over a little later on. Lots of exciting stuff happening today with our 9-race card.
And a 12:35 post. I mean, barring any changes going forward, which we will certainly alert you of here on the feed and over at GulfstreamPark.com, regular post time is 12:35 p.m. Now, some big news announced fairly late yesterday afternoon concerning Breeders' Cup Classic winner Gunrunner. He is not even a week removed from his win as the co-favorite in last Saturday's $6 million Breeders' Cup Classic. And there he is with Florent Giroux and the white cap down inside, winning the Classic. And plans call for him to give you one more career start right over at Gulfstream Park.
In the Pegasus World Cup, and what a performance by this horse. He's had probably one of the only horses that actually won it along the inside. Very impressive a performance by a Gunrunner. We'll be seeing him here in about, what, a month and a half, 2 months?
Yeah, give or take. In the totals, when you start to look at the lifetime work of Gunrunner and what he's been able to accomplish, 11 for 18 thus far, earnings of just under $9 million. His campaign after returning from the Dubai World Cup, of course, he was second in that race, Ronnie, behind the inaugural Pegasus winner in Arrogate. 4 consecutive Grade 1s, the Whitney, the Woodward, the Stephen Foster, and it all came to a head last Saturday out in Southern Cali in the BC Classic. He is basically, and it's not official yet, obviously, the year has yet to end, but he's basically going to be, you would think, a unanimous Horse of the Year and Champion Older Mal.
Absolutely. He's got that locked up, and yeah, I can't see anybody else even coming close. And as we mentioned, he'll be in the $16 million Pegasus World Cup right here at beautiful Gulfstream Park, of course, down at Gulfstream Park on January 27th.
And that'll be it. It's off to the breeding shed. They start breeding in Kentucky right around the middle of February. So some good news. Even though Gunrunner won't be running a full plate of racing as a 5-year-old, we've got him joining us in South Florida. Now, moving on to our housekeeping portion of the show, we'll get you up to speed with what's on tap on this Fast and Firm November the 8th. The card begins a little after 12:35 p.m. with that dollar rolling super high 5, and you know it. The first of 2 pick 5s on the card. I'll be giving out a ticket in just a few minutes, and we build, and again, 9 races today, Ronnie, so we move the Rainbow 6 into race 4.
Race 4 and approaching $27,000 in that pool, so starting to build again. And of course, we end the day with the final pick 5, and you will have a ticket in for the final pick 5 of the afternoon. And great thing about that, 50-cent wager.
Can't beat it. 50 cents for the pick 5s, 20 cents for the Rainbow 6. And we do have a lot of ground to cover, a lot of items to get to on this show today, and appreciate all the work behind the scenes getting us up to speed and television ready here on this sunny Wednesday in South Florida. Now, Amaluna 16th on the turf is where the week begins here, week number 6 at GPW. It's also the starting point in the early pick 5. And any way you slice it, even though Ronnie and I picked the same horse, this is just one heck of a turf race to start the action.
Yeah, I mean, I went 4 deep when I put my early pick 5 ticket together, so and I got the 1, 4, and 5, and certainly a great way to start the day.
And it gets, you know what, it doesn't miss. I was going to say it doesn't get any better, but it doesn't miss a beat, this card, in race number 2 as we finish off the early double with a group of Florida-bred 2-year-old filly maidens. I'm wondering, the one thing I take away from sizing up that field is one breath at a time, Super Live, an Arundel homebred by Brethren who does get hot riding Amise Al Jaramillo. 3-horse spread for me in the 3rd. One of the highlights today is Coxon looking for 6 consecutive wins. He's an amazing horse, and fast forwarding through the 5th race, the back end of this early pick 5. Like many, whether it's a trap or just a short price favorite who's going to win, I just didn't know where else to go other than the Jonathan Thomas, Tyler Gaffleone firster.
Yeah, and that's the way I see it too. I mean, I didn't single in there, but certainly the horse to beat in race number 5.
Now let's move on to the fillies and mares. And by the way, Sunday was pretty much devoted to starter allowances here at Gulfstream Park West. And you got the feeling back on Sunday, a number of those races had serious implications for the December 2nd claiming crown. I feel there's a couple of races, including the first today, that may have some claiming crown implications. And as we talk about the field, got a number of horses who are just in pretty good form Yet topping that list happens to be our top pick, the number 5, Sweet Story. She has just turned into an absolute bear for Kathy Roundtree, who's the owner and the breeder. And I love, as we check out Sweet Story's last victory here over the Gulfstream Park West Turf on October 20th, she pulled a good trip that afternoon, basically attacking wide around the far turn. I love, and I noted it in your analysis, she's very handy and tractable.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it, because if you look at this race, she has the ability to either set or stalk the pace in the field. If you look through this field, it is a little light in the speed department.
Definitely.
So I think that this horse has the ability to either set or stalk the pace, and that's why I put her on top of my ticket.
And Jose Batista, who's back aboard, and he has been really one of the sort of quote-unquote light bulbs that's enabled Sweet Story to basically be ahead or a nose shy of winning her last 4 races. I mean, had it not been for that nose defeat against Righteous Ruth, she'd be a perfect 4 for 4 with Jose Batista. Good stuff there. We also have the returning Quebec coming back to South Florida after trying tougher, both at Kentucky Downs and Keeneland.
Yeah, I think I might have missed this horse. I just dismissed it a little bit. I went back, added it to my early pick 5 ticket, which I'll be showing this afternoon. I think I went back and looked, and I saw, wait, this is the morning leg favorite. And, you know, on the drop figures, didn't like the last couple of races, so I'm trying to beat it. And I was really enamored with the 5-horse Sweet Story for all the reasons we mentioned.
Yeah, just the fact she can get herself in the game in a race where it seems like the major players, Quebec and Arthur Misa, who, by the way, has picked up a Misael Jaramillo on a rider change off Edgar Zayas. They are very much one-run closers who need a lot to go their way. Race number 2 on the afternoon, 2-year-old filly Florida-bred maidens ready to roll in this 6-furlong field of 7. This looks like a pretty good race, and I'm anxious to see who's going to get the maiden diploma. No matter who wins, who loses, it's all good concerning Miguel Vasquez, though, listed to ride the number 4 Quick Lucky Coco in today's second race. Miguel had been riding in career form up through the middle of September. He went down in a little issue, a little spill over at Gulfstream Park, and he had done some good things, this native of Panama, on the year. It's good to have him back.
Yeah, he was having a fantastic year, and it's a shame he had to go down, but he's back and got a couple of mounts this afternoon. Actually picked up another mount and a good rider, so make sure you realize that he's back and you use him on your tickets because he's a good rider.
As he tries to build up some momentum, the last few weeks here, the Gulfstream West meeting, gearing up for the championship meet over at Gulfstream Park. 2 replays to get to in this race. It's just that kind of field where I think there's a lot to talk about and quite a bit to show. And why don't we talk about your top selection, the number 1, Our True Talent, who ran well. Any way you slice her first start, it was a good effort in a heavily bet race. She will lose in what was the closest 3-horse dead heat I can think of in recent memory.
Yeah, she just came in that nose of Exeter Maiden ranks at first asking. You're going to see it here in just a few moments as they come through the stretch. Gerald Bennett is the trainer. Tyler Gaffleone in the saddle. And that's the reason that I went with the number 1 horse, Our True Talent. And here's that finish you were talking about.
3 of them, boom. I mean, nose, right under the wire. That was about as good a horse race you can get, no matter the venue, no matter the time of year. We'll see how she does. Maybe a little more speed second time out. She does have to negotiate that tricky inside post going 3/4. Now, a completely different trip, but still a solid effort nonetheless from your second selection and my 3rd horse, the number 5, Midnight Soiree, who debuted for trainer Lisa Lewis. Now, they were off essentially without Midnight Soiree. They broke, the field went on, and this filly by Include, as we show you back on August 19th, was so far behind. I was really impressed. We've got her highlighted at the back of the pack. Impressed she was able to pretty much sustain a 3/8 of a mile 5 to 6 wide bid and finished a pretty interested 3rd.
And they added blinkers this afternoon, so I think this horse will be closer to the pace. And that was my reasoning behind it. You know, you go with a horse that I think might be on the engine, and then this horse just closing strongly to get up there. Just looked flying through the stretch.
And gets a little more real estate to play with. That might be a good thing for a second-time starter stretching out from 5 to 6 furlongs. I wound up, though, taking the number 2, Galileo's Affair, Ronnie, who ran well in her lone start on a dry track, kind of sucked up for 4th in the $400,000 My Dear Girl. I don't have any qualms about her staying the 3/4, and I'm going to take the 2 Galileo's Affair. What do we do with the Arundel first? Or I know you found a pretty good nugget here for trainer Stanley Gold, who obviously there's quite a bit of appeal in the corner of the 7, one breath at a time.
Yeah, I think this is a horse that you have to use in your tickets. Arundel Farm, a homebred daughter of Brethren. Want to show you a stat on Stanley Gold. 2-year-old first-time starters, maiden special weight runners on the dirt. Over the last 5 years, he's 12 for 57, 21%, 49% in the money, and a $1.23 return of investment. A big sampling, and he's awful good at doing this. So this horse here, debuting, and what I like more, the sharp morning workouts, which is signature of Stanley Gold. When he's got horses going good, they work well in the morning, and that's what's happening with this horse.
Oh, there are some serious breezes of late. You get the feeling this horse was probably saying, this filly saying, oh, something's coming up, because I am training quite fast and awfully hard getting ready for my first start, and we'll see how she does. It's a very good early double to start week number 6 here at Gulfstream West. As we continue on, and we don't miss a beat with Wednesday's third, a 3 and up, $8,000 starter allowance on the dirt going 6 furlongs. You can take out the one Fish Fan who looked a little out of his element because this race came up so salty, and much like the first today, Ronnie, I feel this race probably has some implications going forward to the Claiming Crown, and it really centers around, to an extent, a couple of horses dropping out of the 4th race here at GPW on October 9th, and really a case, I think, going back, a race we will show you, of 2 different trips. We've got everybody highlighted here, but the horse down inside is the number 5, JB Quick. Coxon was the number 1, and as we roll the tape, you can really kind of take into account just that dream trip that Coxon was able to pull in this race, tracking with a ton of horse beneath Sammy Camacho, and he will ultimately do his thing running by a weakened JB Quick. What happens today with the pace, and does Coxon amazingly come back to win 6 straight?
I mean, this horse has just been incredible. You know, how could you not root for a horse that's going for 6 straight in here? But, of course, I went a little different way to try and beat this horse today. But when I not use it on the ticket there, you can see Coxon, what he's been doing.
It is just so cool looking at this win streak. I mean, if you were going to pick a horse to be in your foxhole with you, this is the kind of veteran. He doesn't run in high-priced $100,000 claiming races. He's been basically been running for $6,250, and from July on through that race we just showed you in early October, the calendar has been different, the racing days, the racing venue, the result is the same. 5 consecutive wins out of the mighty Coxon. It'd be awesome to see him win 6 straight, but again, I think he faces his toughest test in this current win streak.
You know, the number 4 horse in here, we're thinking it's Stevie's Man, is debuting locally on the Gulfstream West main track. Really productive summer-fall campaign at Presque Isle on the synthetic surface, in which he won 4 of 8 starts. He's a 14-time winner. He's got speed. Let's show you a stat on trainer John Bork, synthetic to dirt, all starters. He's 3 for 25, 12%. 28% in the money, but he's got a positive return of investment. And if you've been following us here at Gulfstream Park, you know just how well Presque Isle horses that have run on synthetic have been running both here on the main, running well both here on the main track and on the turf course. And that was my reasoning.
Yep.
Would I even think of leaving Coxon off the ticket? No, but that was my thought process with the number 4 horse.
And he is one tough gelding, man. You talked about his career total, Ronnie, his career totals, and not much pedigree being by a stallion I'm not familiar with. In Senor Amigo out of a Pembroke Dam, I think this horse constitutes a hard-hitting freak, and I'm anxious to see what he does. Express Jet is going to have to bring an A-plus level effort to defeat this field. Moving to a dry track, I think, is a real positive for him. And this is a horse who would run okay in the past on wet tracks. At this stage of his 5-year-old campaign, though, I feel he's at his best when he catches dry, fast dirt. And he's also liable to get pretty good pace to attack with your pick and hopefully JB Quick hooking up. He'll be a bigger price than Coxon, and I think when he shows up with his A-game on dry dirt, his closing kick is probably just as potent.
You mentioned the Claiming Crown. These horses here absolutely pointing towards that. You know,
Yep.
A horse like the 4, a horse like Coxon, that's what their game will be, and that is something that we got to look forward to when the championship meet starts. But these are some really nice, hard-knocking horses.
Say it all the time. They are the heart and soul of the game. It's a privilege to watch them run and compete, and we're set for a heck of a pick 3 to start the Wednesday action. champion and a card, by the way, with the rainbow. And Ronnie, that continues after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
And Gulfstream is pulling away. Gulfstream blows them away with an eye-opening performance. Awesome again has won. Gulfstream kicking clear. Shaman goes.
Always love seeing that commercial advertising. Go Zapper at Adena Springs in Kentucky as Ron and Jason join you in our most recent Breeders' Cup Classic champion and Gunrunner, likely the horse of the year, still in the process of writing his career story, and it'll come to a big end with an exclamation point and then some in the January 27 $16 million Pegasus. We're not playing for 16 mil today, unfortunately, in this Rainbow Six carryover, Ronnie, but there's good cash to be had nonetheless. And what are we doing?
26 grand plus is not bad at all. I got a $28.80 ticket. And you see I went too deep here, 2 and 7. I wish I could have gone a little deeper, but I'm singling in race number 8, number 6, Bama Bound, who's changing barns, going to the Victor Barboza Jr. barn via the claim. Turns back to a really distance it really likes. And Victor Barboza Jr., boy, you can't go wrong with that guy. So I figured maybe I can single there and go deeper in the final leg, which I think is so wide open. So that was my thought process with the number 6, Bama Bound is my favorite.
And I'm glad you've got my sneaky little wise guy long shot in the last race, that Rohan Crichton trainer change.
He's my long shot of the day.
Oh, it is? Yeah. All right. So, you know, in this case, goofy minds think alike. But, yeah, more on that horse who just has a look to him. Big barn change, not to disparage anybody else, but Rohan, very good trainer who bats at a high percentage. And not only does he have your long shot and my play in the 9th race, he's got Coxon back in the 3rd looking for 6 straight wins. Now, the 4th had a couple of defections. We're down to a field of 6 in this 2-year-old filly, 12-5 maiden claimer. Do note the rider change as the returning Miguel Vasquez picks up the mount for Joe Orsino on the 4, Chantilly Lily. I lost my top pick, Ronnie, the 5, Just Peachy Keen. That means I scratch into the deuce, Little Miss Perfection, and you and I have a cold 2-7 exacta.
2-7 exacta, but I did have the 2 on top of my ticket before that, Little Miss Perfection. Second at this level and distance in a career debut, drops. Broke poorly last time out, failed to get in track, was 5th, was the favorite that afternoon, was 25 maidens going 3/4 of a mile. Not the horse that you're going to run up and say, I'm betting all my money on this horse, but a horse I think that figures success, especially with the couple of defections in the race.
Makes it an easier race, a smaller field, and you do have a speed horse in Art's second pick, the horse capping our exact, and the 7, Fancy City Girl, who does have a little more speed than Little Miss Perfection. Question with her is, can she really run it all on the dirt, even for this level of 12,500?
Yeah, Armando de la Cerda, it's pretty solid with the turf to dirt angle. Barn has been a little cool, but if this horse can translate that form, maybe steals it on the front end.
All right, let's move on to race number 5, field of 7. And on this 9 race, Wednesday, the November 8th, keep in mind the late pick 5 for 50 cents gets underway here. I came up with 2 singles, and I'm just going to let it roll, much like you with Bama Bound. I mean, Barboza has been close to unbeatable, relatively speaking, off the claim. And not seeing the board ahead of time, I'm just going to stand alone with the Jonathan Thomas, the JT TG single with Gaffleone riding Anonym, who's a gelding by a Fleet Alex. I like the 6th race, and I have a bit of an idea there with the outside runner, Miss Visconti, who you've got 3rd. All right, at least you got her in the mix, and that's a good matchup between your top pick, Ronnie Ventina, and the likely favorite, Amaluna. The 7th race today, I used just the 5 and 6. That is Awesome and Then Some, and the 6, Dreaming of Acre.
Dreaming of Egg. I do not have that one on my ticket.
But you got Awesome and Then
I got
Some
Awesome
on
and Then
top.
Some right on top
And
there.
then, obviously, like most, we're just going to chalk it out with Bama Bound in race number 8. It was either single him or use everybody coming out of that Donegal Hall, Sir Sparky, in my father's image race. I'd rather just just trim the ticket and put my eggs in the basket of Mr. Barboza. And then we come up to the last, and I feel pretty comfortable. If the 8's no good, and he's my wise guy horse and Ronnie's long shot, the number 8, Tail is Told, if he just can't run or it isn't good enough to win for 10K, Trip the Queen and Leaving Dixie seem like, and again, famous last words, they seem like the right two of the ones that have run.
And how good is Mike Maker going here at Gulfstream Park West? I think he's 5 for 8 going in today or thereabouts. So certainly a horse. And I had the same exact thought process with you. Would not lead those horses, and the 8 being my long shot. Had to add it to my Rainbow Six ticket.
And Jonathan Thomas, how good is he going? He unleashed. Someone had alerted me late Sunday, right around the time of our last race. He ran to Sora out at Del Mar, and she made it a perfect 2 for 2 after breaking her maiden in late September at Gulfstream Park. And Jonathan having a big year, a breakout name, had a good effort out of Catholic Cowboy in the BC Juvie Turf. And the fact that this horse just lands in a race where it's hard to sink your teeth into anybody else, I said, I just got to chalk it out.
In perfect spot for a first-time starter to succeed. Lasix, Tyler Gaffleone, you mentioned everything about Jonathan. I thought the same exact way. I did use this number 6, El Guerrero, as Stecker in second. Debuting on the turf after dodging raindrops when finishing second at the distance. That was a race move to a sloppy track last out. And second in another rained out affair going 7.5 furlongs back on October 5th. So maybe this one gets the fast track today, and maybe that's the one that can beat the 4 horse in here, but I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how they bet this race, because it does, at least in my mind, shape up that we might be dealing with this firster for Jonathan, who is going to be massively overbet. We'll see, and we're happy to have Acacia Courtney back in the mix as well as she has returned from Del Mar. Moving on to race number 6 this afternoon. The Wednesday card moves on with this 2-turn mile, 3-up filly mare, $12,500 starter allowance. And Amaluna has been a top miler, and as we show you her last race, closing it out over at Gulfstream Park in late September, she has really kind of revived her career. She is looking for 3 consecutive wins, and man, she has got one potent closing kick. For me, though, Ronnie, the question becomes, as she got spun out so wide and even pinballed a little bit to that off that horse to her immediate inside, is she able to sustain this big closing kick around 2 turns, which goes from sort of a 1-turn elongated sprint to basically an out-and-out route race?
And that was my concern, too. And then there's one other thing that sort of jumped off the page at me. 10 previous starts here at Gulfstream Park West with no wins, 3 seconds and a third. So maybe just doesn't like here as much as it likes it across town. She likes it across town.
She wouldn't be the first.
Right. So we'll see how that goes in there. But I did go with Ventina, who's trying to make it 2 in a row at the distance after shifting from turf to dirt and using her speed to demolish a field of 12-5 condition claimers. Won that race by 12+ lengths. But I want to show you stat on Safi Joseph Jr., winner last time out, all claiming levels on dirt routes. He's 5 for 14, a really solid 36%, 57% in the money, and a $1.60 return of investment. So I see 36% win average. A horse like that, Amaluna, I'm not sure of, but I can understand you using Miss Visconti on top of your ticket or on your ticket.
Definitely. Now, your top pick, Ventina, and I love the stat you sent in. I think it's a case of, and it might just be as cut and dried, if she runs back and is able to replicate her dirt debut in mid-October, she's going to beat this field. I think Amaluna, around 2 turns, may just close for second or third, and the same can be said for Miss Visconti. Personally, I just want to see it again with Ventina's. That was her only dirt start, and the track had some moisture in it. Miss Visconti, my outside horse, who is out for her 6th lifetime win. She's not flashy by any means, but she's in pretty good form right now, and only lost 2 back by neck to Amaluna. She'll be a much bigger price than her, and she can grind. That's the one thing. If Ventina just doesn't replicate that crazy dirt race last time, and Amaluna's closing kick is a little diluted, I thought Miss Visconti might just be in the right place at the right time, where she can kind of just have that relentless way of going.
Yeah, and that might set up just that way, and that's why I had to put her on my ticket, because whatever it folds in front, so we'll see how she runs, if she can pick up the pieces in there, but hanging my hat with Ventina.
All right, race number 7, a quickie here on the turf, running and gunning with this 5-furlong turf event, 3-up filly mare, $10,000 claimers. You probably have the right horse, even though Awesome and Then Some has just won for her last 18. her last race, those were really tough 10K claimers 8 miles east of GP.
Yeah, our Sweet Exchange was in that
Love
10,000
Flute. I
open.
mean, they're good horses.
They're good horses. And Jenny Antonucci, Edgar Zayas, the top this thought of mass media. And I just thought off those performance was the right one in there. And I used Southern and Sassy in second. Antonio Sano keeps the status quo. He's got Jesus Rios in the saddle today. But this horse has got that case of second-itis, which made me lean towards the number 5, Awesome. And then some.
And I'll go one next door to Awesome and then some, as the two former New Yorkers and proud Floridians. At least I'm targeting this horse for one reason today, or 2 words, and that's trainer, or 3 words, trainer Gustavo Delgado, who's just, his horses the last week and change, last, say, 5, 6 cards, have just been running a lot better. And do I love this horse on paper? No. But this is one of those, just my intention of trying to stay ahead of the curve before. If this guy is going in the verge or on the verge of going on a major run, you see trainers get on big runs and then they're routinely over bet. Maybe there's still a chance with a barn who's going well to catch Gustavo at a nice price, or relatively speaking, a nice price.
12 to 1,
race
I believe.
number 7. Oh, that's a nice price, baby, with Mr. Gaffleone in the iron.
Exactly.
So sign me up. I'm following Mr. GD all the way. As we move on to race number 8, our final dirt race on the card, a 62.50 3-and-up claimer, and plenty of talk and kind of a preview in regards to Bama Bound, your 8th race favorite, with Ronnie's Rainbow 6 and my late pick 5, both singles for us as we check out this gelding by Rock Hard 10. And truth be told, he's coming out of a race in early October when he was on a hard chase and still was able to wear down Chauvinus, where I feel like he beat and gapped out a field in the process, a better horse than what he encounters today for 62.50.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. And changing barns, and as you mentioned when you were showing your pick 5 ticket, who's going better than Victor Barboza Jr.? What I like about this horse, especially at 7 furlongs, 12 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds, and that third. So just a duel throughout last time through the stretch. And I just thought that Bama Bound was the one to beat in there, thus both of us singling it on our ticket.
And he'll face one of his old stablemates in trainer Angel Quiros, who was the previous trainer of Bama Bound. That's the number 7, Donegal Hall, who's one of a big group of horses. You basically got a carbon copy of that October 21st race in the slop coming back. And that was my feeling. It's either like, at least with the multis to me, you're either with Bama Bound or you've got to use, because those horses were so bunched up, got to use half that field.
Yeah, and you just have to make it an affordable ticket unless you have that, bankroll that doesn't matter. Then you go deep in there. But if not, you try and do it with Bama Bound. We'll be around 3, 4 o'clock if we did the right thing.
It's always about the bankroll with these multis, right? Always about the cost. It'd be so nice to just spread to your heart's content, but that's not realistic. Did we, we got a stat here on trainer Alexis Lopez, right? With the number 2 Lice Reward. Okay. No stat on him.
No stat on him, no.
But he's got a big chance, that horse.
Yeah.
He can kind of plod along and go in today's 7/8. Now, we do have a stat, in fact, a couple of them upcoming in race number 9, a 7.5 furlong, 3-and-up filly mare, $10,000 maiden claimer. Looking around, Trip the Queen, lost last time for maiden 10. Whit Gaffleone riding for Mike Maker. Leaving Dixie, had a little adversity, to say the least, losing the rider. And our cameraman swears that had Carlos Oliveira not fallen off, Leaving Dixie would have won that race hands down at 9-1. We'll see. And then we move to the outside in a good spot. If the 8 tail is told is going to run, and that's Ronnie's long shot on the day, I feel this is the race where this filly by Telling could step up and surprise. Here's a little stat with trainer Rohan Crichton, who's a high percentage guy, plays the claiming game really well here in South Florida. This is a barn always worthwhile keeping an eye on, and just straight up trainer changes down the middle, boom, 33%. And again, not to knock anybody, but this is by far the most winning barn, for lack of a better term, that Tail is Told has been in in her short 3-race career.
And that was my thought process, changing barns today. I thought this horse would maybe wake up and, beat, I don't know what it is on the morning line, but be a bit of a price in there.
Yeah, I know. I got the program. Why don't you tell us about your top pick, Trip the Queen?
Well, Trip the Queen.
It's probably the filly to beat.
I mean, should be primed and ready to offer more of a return from that freshening for the red-hot Mike Maker barn after finishing in a dead heat for fourth at this level and distance. Want to show you a stat on Mike Maker in here. Second start after a layoff. Maiden claimers on the turf. He's 12 for 34,
wow.
35%, 62% in the money, and still a positive return on investment. This guy is amazing. Especially this. You don't expect it in mid-level claimers to be that sharp, And sure enough, there it is. Maiden claimers. So a good stat on Mike Maker, and the one to beat in there. You and I trying to get cute with the number 8 horse, but you got to use this one somewhere.
Oh, she's a must-use. Even if you have a goofy price idea like I do, you have to use Trip the Queen, and I think even the 4 leaving Dixie. And just as far as price and morning line price goes, 12-1 on the 8 horse. Tail was told 3-1 on the 1 Trip the Queen. But that Mike Maker operation, and it is, as you know, an expansive one. They are just so good, and on the turf, one of the best trainers in the country, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt, and at all levels, which is the reason I wanted to show that stat most of the time. Say, oh yeah, he's got all these horses. Yeah,
all these good stakes horses.
He does maiden claimers, mid-level claimers, stakes horses, everything, graded stakes horses. So you got to pay attention to him. And as I mentioned, going in today, I believe he's 5 for 8 at the Gulfstream.
5 for 10, actually.
5 for 10
yeah,
now.
Had a couple of horses on Sunday. Regardless, we're out of time. Far more than a couple of races on a very action-packed Wednesday. Happy to have Acacia back once again from Del Mar, and our man upstairs, Pete Aiello, coming your way with those Wednesday scratches and changes.